You're listening to a song. Maybe you've heard it 100 times before. And then, right there, in that exact moment, something happens. A wave moves through your body. Your skin tightens. The hair on your arms stands up. Something that feels almost like cold water running just beneath your skin. You didn't ask for it. You didn't plan it. Your body just did it, on its own, without permission. Scientists have a name for this. They call it frisson, from the French word for shiver. And only about 50% of people can feel it. If you're in that half, and you know whether you are, then your brain is built differently from the other people sitting next to you right now. Measurably, structurally, differently. But that's not even the strange part. The strange part is what this response actually is, because it has nothing to do with music. Music just happens to be very good at triggering something that was never designed for music at all, something your nervous system built 300,000 years ago for a completely different reason. And once you understand what that reason was, you will never hear a song the same way again. Let's go back, way back, before instruments, before rhythm, before any human had ever deliberately made a sound for the purpose of making another human feel something. Your ancestors are sitting in the dark. Not comfortable dark, not the dark of your bedroom with the curtains closed, absolute dark. The kind where vision stops being useful entirely. Something is wrong. They don't know what, but the body knows. Something in the air has changed. A sound, a shift in pressure, something that doesn't belong to the normal sounds of the night. And the body responds, not with thought, not with analysis, not with a careful evaluation of the available evidence, with something faster than thought. The hair on the arms stands up. The skin tightens. Every nerve ending goes live at once, not because of music, because of danger. This response is called piloerection, the same biological mechanism that makes a cat's fur puff up when it's threatened, the same thing that makes a dog's hackles rise, the same response that, in animals with thick fur, makes them look significantly larger and more threatening to whatever just startled them. In us, it produces goosebumps. Because we lost our fur somewhere around 2 million years ago, we lost the functional value of the response. The hair that stands up on a human arm is too short and too sparse to make us look bigger or more threatening to anything. But the nervous system that triggers it? Still there, fully intact, running exactly the same program it's been running for millions of years, waiting for a threat signal. Here's where it gets interesting. Your brain has a threat detection system. Scientists call it the autonomic nervous system, and it is ancient. Older than language, older than memory, older than anything you'd recognize as conscious thought. It runs in the background, all the time, scanning. Is this safe? Is this familiar? Is this something I should react to? Most of the time, the answer is yes, safe, and nothing happens. But certain inputs make it pause. Sudden changes in sound, unexpected shifts in pattern. Something that doesn't quite fit. And when it pauses, really pauses, the body prepares. Adrenaline releases, attention sharpens, heart rate shifts, and the hair stands up. Now, here's the thing nobody expected. Music can do this. Not because music is dangerous. Music is the opposite of dangerous. You're sitting in a chair. You're completely safe. Your brain knows this perfectly well. But music does something to the auditory cortex that, in the right moment, under the right conditions, with the right combination of sounds, trips the same wire. Researchers at McGill University in Montreal put people in brain scanners and played them music that gave them chills. The results stopped the lab. The brain regions that lit up were not primarily the auditory cortex, not the areas associated with conscious appreciation of music, not the regions tied to aesthetic judgment. The primary activation was in the nucleus accumbens and the ventral tegmental area, the same regions that activate for food when you're starving, the same regions that activate for cocaine. The brain's ancient reward and survival circuitry. Music wasn't being processed as art, it was being processed as something that mattered, something important, something the body needed to respond to. But why? Why would music, of all things, trigger a survival response? This is where the answer goes somewhere completely unexpected. Researchers studying this for the past 2 decades have converged on a theory, and it starts not with music, it starts with voices. Specifically, with the human voice in extreme emotional states. Think about what a human voice sounds like when something is genuinely wrong, when someone you love is in real pain, when someone is crying in the dark, when someone calls out in fear, in grief, in desperate need of help. The voice breaks. It shifts pitch unpredictably. It does things that a calm, controlled voice never does. Your nervous system is exquisitely tuned to this, not because you learned it, because you were born with it. Newborn infants respond to emotional vocal signals before they have any understanding of language, before they know what words mean, before they can recognize faces. The sound of distress in a human voice produces an immediate, automatic, preconscious response. This is ancient. This is group survival. For 300,000 years, human beings lived in small groups where the sound of one member in distress was information. Critical, potentially life-saving information. Someone screaming meant predator. Someone crying meant loss. Someone calling out in the dark meant get up, right now. The nervous system that could detect and respond to these signals fastest, not think about them, not analyze them, respond, was the nervous system that kept its group alive. And music, it turns out, is extraordinarily good at mimicking these patterns. A voice rising unexpectedly to a high note, a sudden swell of sound after silence, a chord that shifts in a direction the ear didn't predict. These are acoustically similar to the patterns of an emotionally charged human voice. The brain isn't fooled exactly. It knows it's music. But something deeper than the part that knows doesn't fully get the memo. And so the hair stands up. There's more. Because the chills don't just happen randomly during music. They happen at specific, predictable moments. Researchers asked people to report the exact moment chills hit while listening to music. The patterns were remarkably consistent across different songs, different genres, different listeners. Entry of a new instrument after a section of sparse sound, a sudden shift to a higher key, a moment of unexpected silence, followed by sound returning, a human voice entering music that was previously instrumental, a chord that violates what the ear predicted was coming next. What do all of these have in common? Violation of expectation. The brain builds a constant running model of what's coming next. In music, in conversation, in any structured sequence of sound. It predicts, continuously, automatically. When the prediction is wrong, not by random noise, but by something meaningful and intentional, the system notices. And in the ancient nervous system, a prediction violation in the auditory environment meant something needed attention. Music is essentially hacking this mechanism. A skilled composer, even without understanding any of this science, is doing what skilled composers have always done, building expectation, delaying it, breaking it at the exact moment that creates maximum emotional impact. They're not writing music, they're writing instructions for your nervous system. And your nervous system is 300,000 years old and follows instructions very well. Now, the 50%. Because this is the part that changes how you see the people around you. Not everyone gets chills from music. Roughly half of the population reports never having experienced frisson. This is not a cultural difference. It is not a question of musical taste or sophistication or how deeply someone appreciates art. It is structural. Researchers at USC found that people who experience frisson from music have a measurably different brain architecture than those who don't. Specifically, stronger connections between the auditory cortex, the part that processes sound, and the regions responsible for emotional processing and social reward. More connections, not better ones, just more of them. A higher density communication pathway between hearing and feeling. This means that for roughly half the population, sound and emotion are more tightly wired together. When music does something unexpected, the signal hits the emotional processing regions faster and with more intensity. For the other half, those regions are less directly connected. The auditory signal processes, the music is heard, but the bridge that triggers the ancient survival emotional response is narrower. The chills simply don't arrive. This is not a flaw in either brain, it's variation. The same kind of variation that made some ancient humans lighter sleepers than others, that made some more sensitive to movement at the periphery of vision, that made some respond faster to the sound of something wrong in the dark. Variation that, across a group, made the group more resilient. The person who gets chills from a distant voice crying out in the night wakes up faster. The person who doesn't get chills from every sound sleeps more deeply and recovers more fully. You needed both. Here's what all of this means. The next time music moves through you, really moves through you, in that way that feels almost too big for your body to hold, that is not a response to art. That is a 300,000-year-old nervous system recognizing something that sounds like it matters, like a voice in the dark, like a signal from someone who needs you, like something happening in the world that your group needs to respond to. Your brain doesn't fully know it's just a song. Some part of it is still in the dark, still listening, still ready. The musician didn't give you those chills. Your ancestors did. The musician just knew how to find them.